Hi, welcome to Stay Connected. Today we're in Garfield County and we're meeting with the county commissioners Tom Jankovsky and Mike Sampson, and they're going to update us on what's going on in the county. All right, Tom, thanks for joining us today. And just to catch up, what's been going on in the commissioner's office these days?
Well, it's been stay at home, but we've been extremely busy with just a lot of phone meetings, a lot of, first of all, this is a public health emergency, so we set up an IT team, really, or incident management team, so IMT team, and that really had to do with our public health department, but also the sheriff's department. Yvonne Long has been she's our public health director, and she has been the lead on that. How the Garfield County Commissioners fall in is we are kind of the policy team. Okay. So she updates us 3 days a week on what's going on as far as public health. And she also asks for our suggestions. And then we've made some decisions as far as the policy team. And one of the first decisions we made was, look at all the people that are getting laid off. We went from having a great economy and jobs to no jobs. I mean, overnight almost. And so first thing was, food security and having a roof over your head. And we could do something as far as food security. So we donated $100,000 to Lift Up right out of the get-go. So we could have, to our food bank, have food available and more food available. And I think that's been able to help them get that out. And that is available to all of our constituents, whether they're no questions asked. So we did that. And then we also funded Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels really is out of Grand River Hospital.
Yes.
But it extends from Newcastle all the way to Parachute. But that helps the individuals that are
can't get
out of their house, and some of those people can't physically get out of their house,
right?
And some of them may be just too afraid to go out of their house,
right.
And so we're able to get meal service to those individuals. We also changed our senior meals. We had a strong program through the Human Service Department for senior lunches, and Judy Martin, who's in charge of that, had to change that from you coming and congregating for meals to sack lunches, and so seniors could come up and still get their meal and then take that home with them or eat outside. So those were some things we did immediately. Then we also were requested by our Human Service Department to come up with a $500,000 financial assistance plan. So we did that, and that's tied through Human Services. So when people call into Human Services, not only can they apply for financial assistance, but we can look and see if they're eligible for TANF, which is temporary assistance for needy families, or LEAP, which is utility assistance, or for if you've lost your insurance through Medicaid. So that's available to our constituents.
And this is all the cash flowing from
This is from Garfield County.
This is Garfield
County funds, and this came from the Human Service Department had some reserves, so we were able to take those out of reserves. And but we were approached by Aspen Community Foundation, and they wanted to get some funding out there for no questions asked funding, because in our Human Service Department, when you go there, you have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to have a driver's license, you have to have a social security number, and if you get a financial assistance from us of over $600, then you're going to get an I-9, so that'll show up on your taxes. So, what about individuals who don't have documentation? And so we really directed the Aspen Community Foundation. We said, you can go to the nonprofits we have in Garfield County, such as Catholic Charities, the Salvation Army, RE1 Family Resource Center, and in Newcastle, the River Center, and they donated funds to all those nonprofits. So there are a lot of resources out there, and I would encourage people to take advantage of those.
So I guess my question is Garfield County getting any assistance at all through this COVID?
Well, there was, I think there's going to be some county assistance, and it came through the CARES Act and went to the state of Colorado, received $2.2 billion.
Okay.
And about 600 million of that went to the largest counties that have populations of over 500,000. Went directly to those counties, but the state received this other funding. And so I think there's going to be some state funds that will help us pay for our expenditures, and our expenditures will be in the millions of dollars.
Well,
I think,
I'm very impressed with what you just said. I mean, for Garfield County to really have that outreach to people that need it, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm sure people are going to be really glad to hear that as well. I mean, it's not something you open the paper and read every day, so it's great. And so let's talk about the businesses, the business community. I know you've been out and about and talking to people, and we're talking about a slow open coming up. And so are they businesses excited? Are you excited?
Well, I'm excited that we're starting a recovery. I'm really excited about that. And we did some things in Garfield County under the kind of the stay-at-home order. We did some things that other counties didn't do. We allowed restaurants to have curbside or pickup and delivery. So that happened in the restaurant community. And then we also had our construction and trades were able to continue to work in Garfield County as long as they had a social distancing plan and they kind of stayed at the 10 individuals or less at a job site. And that sometimes can be, you know, some people say, well, they're not at 10 people, but if you have 10 people working inside a job site, 10 people working outside, it kind of has to do with the territory. And our health departments worked very closely with the construction community on that.
Right.
And but I'm happy to see that we're starting now. We're at stay-at-home, which is a governor's order, and it's starting to relax some of this a little bit. And so we've had as of Wednesday, we had 400 retail businesses apply for a social distancing plan, and they gave that directly to the health department. They didn't once they just submitted that plan, they were approved. And so we'll have at least 400 businesses, if not more, retail businesses start to open up on Monday with social distancing.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. We, as a county, put together what we called our CERT team, which is County Economic Development or Economic Recovery Team. And we've reached out to our financial institutions, and we thank them for the work that they did on the PPP loans. There was over $160 million in PPP loans in the Roaring Fork Valley that went out, and a lot of those because of our local banks. We got in when the funds were there, so they've received their funding already. And then we met with our restaurant community, and our restaurant community and businesses are, you know, they're really hurting. They employ a lot of people, and they're just asking for guidelines of how do we start to reopen, and we're working on that. And we have talked to the construction side of it. We just got done with a tourism meeting today with our hotels and the tourism partners here in Glenwood Springs, the hot springs.
About that a little bit.
They're all working, coming up with social distancing plans, and they're trying to get reopened by the 29th. Senator Rankin was in that meeting along with Yvonne Long in the health department. And how can we get social distancing plans to reopen? It may not be as much business as before, but how can we reopen and be safe when we do that and follow the governor's orders? So we're working on that. We are hoping by Memorial Day that we can have a soft opening on many of the businesses here in Glenwood Springs. And let's just, you know, I kept thinking about, well, what about rafting? How are you going to social distance and rafting? You know, put all these people in a raft. And their answer has been, you know, we're kind of going to go back to reservations only. And we may take 2 people out with 1 guide, or we may take a family of 6, but where they'll be on reservation, and when that van comes back in, it'll be wiped down, it'll be sanitized, and so that's how they're looking at reopening their businesses. So a lot of innovative thinking, and you know, we just need to get this. We need to get back to normal as quickly as possible. I want to just read a quick. This is from because I think we have the health side of this,
right?
But we also have the side which is the economic side or the welfare side. People have to have jobs, and or they need to have jobs and income. And with this PPP, will last through maybe about its gap funding through middle of June. So how do we reopen? But there's also a mental health side of this, and this is from a constituent. She sent me this. I'm just going to read the last paragraph, and it says, "My voice feels small, but I hope I can make an impact on the direction in which this community needs to go. What people can't see right now is the effect it is having on people's state of mind, adults and children alike. I think that is more damaging than the virus itself." And that was her email to me was very impactful, and I just wanted to be able to read that because it talks about the social distancing, the staying at home, not being able to meet with your family or meet with your friends or your neighbors, and there is a mental health side of that, and we need to be aware of that.
Right. So the businesses, again, I guess, I'm interested in, and have you talked to any of the business owners and directly and just see what?
Well, we kind of put together through this CERT team, County Economic Recovery Team, we put a hub and spoke type of a structure where we have kind of a central team that is county staff. It's led by Fred Jarman, who's our deputy county manager, and that's kind of the hub. And we then went out and we had focus groups with some of those groups I just talked about, the restaurants, the construction trade, and so we've heard from them, and a lot of what they've asked for is guidelines. They've also asked for communication. How can we get our story out to the public? And we then have asked from each of those groups, we've asked somebody to come in and be a member of our core team, the CERT team. We've talked, besides the private business groups, we have also talked with the city managers, the mayors. Commissioner Sampson has met with the mayors, and then also the chambers and the economic development groups, and so we're trying to get as much input from them as possible to hear about what's going on in their groups.
It sounds like, there's always the good thing that comes out of some things that aren't so good. And I'll tell you, it seems like cohesively, we may be social distancing, but we're getting to know each other differently, and we're getting to know each other in a different way because we're having, excuse me, these different conversations now.
And I'd never been on a Zoom meeting until this last month, and I've been on a lot of Zoom meetings, and I also, I actually was the moderator of one yesterday, which was interesting. I looked at that screen and went, oh boy, what do I do now? So
we're all getting educated in all different ways right now.
And so I've had a lot of communicating, but it's mainly been virtual or over the phone.
Yep.
Not much in person.
So is there anything else that you'd like us to know out here in Garfield County that we can really take home with us from the commissioners? Well,
I'm concerned about our students and even our toddlers. I mean, this whole, we've lost almost a quarter, maybe a semester of schooling. I mean, it's lost, and you can say there's virtual schooling, but to a lot of young adults, they've lost that half year, and so I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the impacts on them as well as social distancing, not being able to see their friends, and what that has to do. I think Commissioner Sampson talked about graduation a little bit and the loss of sports, especially for seniors. They lost all their spring sports and that part of their life, which has been, all of us can think back to graduation and how we socialized and celebrated and were with our family and friends. I know. Our teachers and
as parents, we're
as parents, you lose that. And I'll even take some examples down to preschool. My grandson who had stayed at home. I didn't get to see him much now that we're safe at home. We're having a little more family contact. But you know, his preschool is on Zoom twice a week. He gets on Zoom.
Nice.
But I'll talk about a little guy named Logan who had he was born early and had some really had a tough time. Spent a lot of his he was a preemie. Spent a lot of his early years in the hospital, and was having trouble with speech, and was working through speech therapy, and was just learning to talk and gaining that. And with this shutdown, he can't go see his speech therapist. He's trying to do it on Zoom, and he's lost everything that he's learned. And so those are incidents that touch my heart, and we're going to have to get back to normal so he can get back to his therapist and recover that speech, because it's so important for him. And he's a bright young guy. He needs some help, you know. So
right. Well, Tom, thank you for being with me today and letting the community know what the commissioners are up to and how everybody's communicating with each other, which is awesome.
No, we're trying to work and trying to get people back to work. We're trying to do our job to get people back to work and then back to normal as soon as possible, yet being safe, you know. And I do want you, even though we're at safe at home now, we still need to remember it's only social groups of 10 or less. We need to keep the 6-foot distancing. You need to wash your hands and not touch your face. That needs to continue. Make sure when you sneeze, you cover your face. You sneeze into your elbow. Wear face masks, as the governor has asked when you're going into establishments. He's required everybody in establishments to wear face masks, so be respectful of them. If you are sick, not to go to work, to stay home if you're not feeling well. You know, for those that are still vulnerable, those that are over, there's senior citizens that are vulnerable to this disease, or those that have pre-existing conditions or immune conditions, please continue to stay at home. And all those things we put in place for stay at home. Still, you know, even though it's safe at home, you can leave your house more, you can socialize a little bit more. The governor's still asking that we try to continue to be at home as much as possible. And that's important, because we've been successful. We have flattened the curve. Our medical and health facilities are not overwhelmed. And so we can start getting back to normal, but we all have to work together to do that. So that's kind of my message.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you again soon.
Okay, let's do this again soon.
All right,
so,
thanks.
Thank you, everybody.